Hi everyone, welcome you all. In our previous video, we have seen what is collection and what is a collection framework and what are the differences between collection and collection framework. Now, I have told you like collection framework is basically contains n number of interfaces and classes, right? So first of all, let us see what are the different interfaces and classes are available, and then we will see each and every class and interface in detail. So in the today's session, the mainly focusing on what are the main interfaces and what are other derived classes are available in the collection framework. So the first and most important collection framework in the main interface in the collection framework is collection interface. So the name of the interface is collection. So basically this is an interface. So this collection is a root interface. We can simply call it as a root interface for all other collection related classes and interfaces, and which contains a common methods which we can use for other collection objects. So for example, we have understood what is collection, right? So what is a collection means? A group of elements. We can represent a group of elements as a single entity. So for example, I have an organization in employees. Let's say I have EMP1 object, EMP2 object, I have EMP3 object, and so on. So there are multiple objects I have. I'll representing all the objects as a single entity. So this is a single entity. This is basically we can do by using a collection. So collection is nothing but a group of objects. Together we can call as a group of object is a collection. So to representing this collection, we need certain interfaces and classes, right? So if I just look at here, we have multiple objects representing with single entity here, right? So what are the common operations we'll do on these objects? Normally when I have some collection here, we add some object into this collection, or we want to remove this collection from remove this object from the collection. And sometimes we can check whether the object is present inside the collection or not. So these are the common operations we can do on the collection. So to do these operations, like these operations are common for all kinds of collections. So adding a new object or removing an object, or we can verify the existing object whether it's available inside the collection or not. So all these things we can do by using certain methods. So those methods are commonly have across all the collection classes. So those methods are present inside the collection interface. So the collection interface is used to representing group of objects as a single entity, and which contains a common methods which are required for other collections. So most of the times the methods which are defined inside the collection interface are common across all the collection classes. So this is the first and most important collection we have as part of collection framework. So this is a collection interface. Now in Java we have something called collections. So what is collections? So this is, I'm talking about collection. This is purely an interface. Now apart from this, we also have one more thing called collections. So what about this collections? So collection is a group of elements. We can represent multiple objects as a single entity, which is a collection. And the collection, if you want to create, we can use a collection interface. So we'll get all method from this. But what about the collections? So collections in Java, which is actually a class from java.utils package. So in Java, we have a java.utils package. So the collection is a class which is present inside the java.utils package. So what basically collection class contains? Collections class also contains certain methods, and these methods we can use for collection objects. So the collections is a predefined class which is available inside the java.util package in Java. So we can use this collections class contains certain number of methods, and those methods we can use to perform certain operations on collection objects. Now let me show you one example here. So to understand this, let's take a small array list object. So let me just create one array list. Let's say AR. I have an array list, and I have some elements in the array list. So element 1 and element 2 and element 3, and these are different objects. So I want to sort all these objects, or I want to sort all these elements inside the array list. So array list is basically a collection object. Now to sort all these elements, what we can do is we can use a collections class So we have a class called as a collections from java.util package. Inside this collection, we have a method called sort, and we can pass this array list here. And then what happens, the collections inside this class, we have a sort method, which is a utility method we have, and that particular method will sort the elements inside the array list. So what we have to understand here is the collections is a predefined class which is available inside the java.util package, and which is providing certain number of methods, and those methods we can use to perform certain operations on the collection objects. So here the collection is an interface. Collections is a predefined class which is available inside the collections.java.util package. Okay, so like this, like a sort method, we have a n number of methods are available in the collections class, and we can use those methods to perform certain operations on the collection object. So this is a basic difference between collection and collections. Now collection and collections, let me just repeat once again. So collection is an interface which comes under collection framework, and collections is a predefined class which contains some utility methods by which we can perform certain operations on the collection objects. So that is the difference between collection interface and collections. This is a class. Okay, so collection is an interface, collections is a class, and which contains the methods, and these methods we can use for collection objects to perform certain operations. So this is a very important thing. So collection is a first and root interface which contains the methods which we can use commonly across collection classes. Now this is the first interface. From this interface we have different type of interfaces created, and again those interfaces are implemented by different number of classes. Now let us see what are other interfaces we have as part of collection framework, and what are other classes are available which are implemented those existing interfaces in the collection framework. So now we discussed the collection interface. So the collection interface is the base interface we have in the collection framework. So this particular collection interface, this is a basically interface which is having a child interfaces. So the main interface here is list is one interface, and we have also set interface. Set is also one more interface, list interface, set interface, and we also have queue interface. So these are the main three interfaces which have created as part of child of collection interface. So list is an interface of the child of collection interface, set is another interface which is also child of collection interface, and queue is another interface which is also child of the collection interface. Again, each and every interface is implemented by using different classes. So we will discuss those classes later. So let us first focus on what are the main interfaces we have in the collection framework. Now let us see one by one. So collection is a main interface, is a parent interface, and this interface again implemented, there are child interfaces, list, set and queue interfaces. So these three interfaces are child interfaces of collection. So now we will discuss what exactly list, set and queue interfaces, and what are other classes which are available for implementing these interfaces. So first let us start with the list interface. Okay, so first let us start with the list interface. Okay, so list. So list is a interface which is a child interface of the collection interface. So root interface is collection, right? So collection, and list is a child interface of the collection. So list is a child interface of the collection. Now what is exactly list mean? So this is also an interface. So the first point is the list is a child interface of the collection interface, and whatever methods we have in the collection, the same methods are also available in the list interface. And the second point is list is a child class of child interface of collection interface. The first point, list is child of collection interface. So the first point. The second point is when we have to use a list interface. So this particular list interface we can use, suppose I have a group of objects. Let us say I have a group of objects. I want to store all of them as a one entity. So that's basically called as a collection, right? So I have a group of objects. I want to store all of them as a single entity. Now my requirement is I want to store all these elements in the sorted order. Okay, I want to store all the elements in the sorted order. So for example, let us say here, if I take group of elements, in whichever order we have inserted all the elements into this element in the collection, in the same order it should preserve. So for example, let us say I have taken one collection. Let's say this is my collection, and I'm going to insert multiple objects into this collection. So whenever I add a new object, the insertion in whichever order I have inserted all the objects, in the same order it should insert. So that means the insertion order should be preserved. Okay, so when I add a new element, that should be here. So this particular collection should maintain the insertion order should be preserved. So in whichever order we have inserted these elements or objects, in the same order it should present. So that's a important thing. So here in that particular case we use list interface. So if you want to add a group of objects, then suppose the insertion order should be preserved, and at the same time duplicates also allowed. That is another point. The first point should be insertion order should be preserved, at the same time duplicates also should allow. In those two cases we go for list concept. So here insertion order preserved, so this is the first thing, and the second thing is duplicates allowed. So in these two cases we will prefer to use list concept. So what is list means? A list is a collection which we can store a group of elements or objects. But in that case, when we have to go for list, if you want to add all the group, if you want to maintain all the group of elements in the collection, and where the insertion order should be present, insertion order should be preserved. So in whichever way we have inserted all the elements or objects, in the same order it should maintain. The second point is duplicates also allowed here. So if I want to insert another element, same object again, it should allow us. So in these two cases we go for list concept. So this is one of the collection we have, and the list is a child interface of collection interface. Now, so what are the classes are available which are implemented this list interface? So now we'll discuss about those classes. So list interface is implemented by using a different classes. Let me just rub this. So list is an interface, right? Interface alone we cannot directly access. So we have a certain number of classes are implemented this list interface. So what are the different classes have implemented this interface is, the first class is ArrayList class. ArrayList is a class which is implemented all the methods which are available in the list interface. And the next one is linked list, ArrayList, linked list. So this is another class which is implemented this list. The first one is ArrayList is a class, linked list is another class, and we also have something called vector. So this is also another kind of a collection, and again this is implemented, this is extended from the stack. So these are all different classes which are implemented this list interface, and list is a child interface of collection, and child list interface is implemented by using different classes. So ArrayList is one class, linked list is another class, vector and stack. So these are also classes, and these are called as a legacy classes. From the old versions of Java you can find them, so we can call them as vector and stack is a legacy classes. So legacy classes. So these are the classes are available which are implemented based on the list interface, and list interface is a child interface of the collection. So far we have seen two interfaces in the aspect of collection framework. So one is collection interface, that is a parent interface for all other collections. Inside the collection interface we have a common methods which are required, which are useful for all other collection objects. And the second interface is a list interface, and which is derived from the collection interface. So this is a child interface of collection. And when we need to go for list, suppose if you want to store a group of elements, and those elements, when I add a new elements or when I insert a new elements, the insertion order should be preserved. And the second thing is duplicates also should be allowed. In those two cases, we will go with the list interface concept. And the list is implemented by using array list class, linked list class, and vector and stack classes. So these are the set of classes are available which are implemented list interface. Now, apart from this list interface, there are some other child interfaces also there for collection interface. Now we will discuss. So we have seen what is the list interface and when we need to go for list interface. Now I will talk about other type of collection, that is set interface. So set interface is also derived from the collection. So set is also an interface. Set is also an interface. And this is again child interface of the collection interface. Set is also child interface of the collection interface. Now, so when we need to use set interface. So when you go for list interface, two options. One is the insertion order should be preserved. The second point is duplicates also should be allowed. In those cases, we have preferred the list. Now here in the set interface, the first thing is insertion order not preserved. Insertion order not preserved. Insertion order not preserved. Okay, so in whichever way we have inserted those elements, it will not maintain the same order inside the collection. So insertion order not preserved. And the second point is duplicates not allowed. Duplicates not allowed. So in that list, the duplicates should be allowed, but in the set, duplicates are not allowed. So when we need to go for set interface, the first thing is insertion order is not preserved and duplicates are not allowed. If I add one object, we cannot add the similar object again and again. So the duplicates are not allowed. In these two cases, we go with the set interface. And this is also a child interface of collection interface. Now, what are the other classes which are implemented based on the set interface? So now let us see what are those classes. So the set interface is implemented by using a class called #set. So this is one class we have, and the same interface is implemented by using another class called linked #set. Linked, let me write once again. So here linked #set. So this is another class we have. So these are the two classes have implemented set interface. Set interface. So when we need to go for set interface can be used whenever the insertion order not preserved. If we don't want to preserve any insertion order, then we can go for the set. And duplicates also not allowed. So in the set, duplicates also not allowed. In these two criteria, we can go and prefer to use set interface. So this is one more interface we have, which is part of the collection interface. So far we have discussed two main interfaces which are child interfaces of collection interface. So what are those interfaces? The first one we have discussed about a list interface. The second one we have discussed about set interface. And these two interfaces are derived from the collection interface itself. Now what are the differences we have observed? The list in case of list, insertion order should be preserved, but in case of set, it is not preserved. In case of list, duplicates are allowed or not? Duplicates allowed, but in case of set, duplicates are not allowed. So these are the two differences between the list and the set collections, which are derived from the same interface, which is a collection. Now, apart from this list and set, there is one more interface which is also derived from the collection interface. Now we will see that collection. So the next interface is, apart from this list and set, we also have one more, called queue. Queue is also an interface. So queue is also an interface, and which is also implemented, which is also extended from the collection interface. So this is a parent and this is a child interface. Just like a set and a list, queue is also another child of the collection interface. Now when we need to go for the queue, so when we need to prefer the queue. So queue is, we can use a queue whenever you want to representing a group of objects which are prior to processing, So what is meant by prior to processing? Suppose I maintain different objects as a group and these objects should be prior to processing. So then we can go for the queue. So what is prior to processing means? So let us try to understand. It is basically first in first out concept. So here I have different list of emails. Okay, I have different list of emails. Let's say I have 1,000 emails. Okay, I have 1,000 emails, total 1,000 emails list I have, right? So 1,000 emails list I have. I want to send an email. To all these people and the list of recipients. Okay, so when I send this email and put all these email IDs in my CC list. Okay, so then what happens is this email will not go to everyone at the same time. So first it will send to the first guy and second, third, fourth and fifth, right? So there will be a queue will be maintained and the emails will be sent to same email will be sent to multiple people one after another. So this is basically called as a prior to processing. So here there are a list of email IDs we have. So these are prior to processing. So here basically first in first out concept. So whichever first is in and that will be first out. So first in and first out. So the queue is an interface we can use whenever you have a objects which are prior to processing. So then we will prefer queue concept. So this is also one of the interface, child interface of collection interface. Now what are the different classes are available which are implemented this queue interface? So queue interface is implemented one class called priority queue. So there are another classes also there, but here I'm just writing the main classes which we are going to use very frequently. So here priority queue is there. So this is the class which is implemented this particular interface. Okay, queue interface. So these are the few interfaces we have in the collection framework. All the interfaces are child interfaces of collection interface. Now let me just summarize what are the interfaces we have discussed so far which are comes under collection interface. The first interface we have discussed is list interface. The second interface we have discussed is set interface. The third one we have discussed is queue interface. And the list interface will be preferred if you have a group of objects where insertion order is preserved and duplicates are allowed. Then we can go for list interface, list collection. And suppose I have a group of elements or group of objects where insertion order not preserved, duplicates also not allowed, then we can go for set interfaces. And suppose I have a group of elements which are prior to processing, then we can go for queue interface. And again each interface is implemented by using different classes. Okay, so these are all basic interfaces we have under collection interface. Now apart from these all interfaces, there is another interface we have called map interface. That is a completely independent interface of collection, that is nowhere related to collection. Collection interface is one side. Let us say here we have seen collection interface this. So again in the collection interface we have seen list, set and queue. So these are the three interfaces we have seen. Apart from this, there is one more independent interface we have called as a map. So this is a different kind of interface, and this is not a child interface of the collection interface. So map is not a child interface of the collection interface. Now what map is contains, what are the different interfaces and classes we have, let us see. So when we need to go for the map, so map is another interface we have. So when we need to go for the map, so map is also, by using map also we can represent a group of elements or group of objects, but those objects will be in the form of key and a value pair. So for example, I have data something like this, right? Say I have employees, let's say EMP ID 101, I have a David, and 102 I have a Smith, and 103 I have a Scott. So I have a multiple IDs and I have a multiple names. And if I just look at here this kind of data, so here every element is an object. So here these are all objects and the names are also object. And in the map we can call them as a keys, and these are all the values. So key and a value pair means this combination is called as a key and a value pair. So if you want to store this kind of data, we will go for map interface. So in the map interface, we can representing group of objects or elements in the form of key and a value pair. And every key is an object and every value is an object. But here the rule is the keys cannot be duplicated. So for example, when I say 101 I already inserted, I cannot add one more 101. So the duplicates are not allowed in case of keys. But the values can be duplicated. So if I add David here, the David can be repeated once again. So in the map, the data will be maintained in the form of key and value pairs. And each key is an object, each value is an object. And keys are unique. So keys we cannot duplicate. Duplicates are not allowed as a keys, but values can be duplicated. So this is a way we can use map interface. So map interface will be preferred if you want to store the objects in the form of key and a value pair. And what are other classes are available which have implemented this map interface? Now we will discuss them. So map interface is also implemented by using different classes. So the map interface is implemented. So map interface is implemented by using hash map. So this is a class, and which is also implemented by using linked hash map. Okay, so linked hash map. So these are the two classes which have implemented this map interface. Okay, so map is a completely different interface which is also comes under collection framework, but this is nowhere related to collection. So collection is a parent class and a map is a different class. Okay, so this is how we need to understand all the interfaces and the classes from the collection framework. So from the next video, I will show you how we can work with the different interfaces and different classes. Alright, so that's all for